Welcome to Crimson Guitars. Welcome to episode 46 of Luthiers Questions Time, the live stream. I'm here at home. It's 8 p.m. UK time, and I'm going to stream for an hour or so and answer your questions about guitar building in general, and pretty much anything else that you can throw at me that I feel like answering. Really, it's that simple. This is a Q&A. It's all good. Anyhow, welcome. We have Dimitri, Tutankhamun, Lisa, Brandy B, Sweet Tea Guitars. How's it going? Charles Piper is in the house, Rob Toothill, etc. Robert R. Have I said Robert R already? I have not. There's a bunch of us in the house, and well, we have questions, and I'm going to jump right in because, you know, it's why we are here. Tutankhamun, who's just finished a course at Crimson, says, "Hi Ben, when you get here." So this was from before the live stream started. "I've almost completed the guitar I built at Crimson, and the Crimson humbuckers sound impressive. Thank you very much. The only issue I have is that I did 2 volume controls into one tone, to an on-off switch, and then to the output jack. If I turn either volume to 0, it cuts both out. Any idea on how I can fix this?" It's you've essentially wired them in series somehow. Basically, send a photograph of what you've done via email to stream@crimsonguitars.com, and Ricky will forward that on to Sam, who will then get back to you. He is a current wiring guru and the gentleman that designed and either made or oversaw the making of those pickups you like. So yeah, basically there are a few different ways that you can get that result, and we need to see which one you've taken in order to talk about the fix. But yeah, essentially, yeah, wide in series. Sweet Tea Guitar says, "Hello from South Carolina. I have no picture in my head of what South Carolina is like." Interesting. And actually, Sweet Tea is talking to Tutankhamun about what he can do to fix that, which is good. So it sounds like Sweet Tea Guitar says, "It sounds like you have the volumes wired in series or daisy chained," without seeing the diagram. What I said. You want the volume to control should be soldered to the volume pot that controls its volume, etc. Yeah, basically wiring stuff, which a lot of the time goes over my head unless I'm sitting there with the diagram. But I think that's the case with most of us. Brandy B says, "Hello." Hi, Brandy. Okay, questions. Sweet Tea Guitar says, "Hello, Ben." Hi. What are your thoughts on standardizing a neck pocket / heel design for all bolt-on necks? I'm considering doing this to make a custom template. So I do not know why Fender Leo, yes, I know him personally. He's a funny chap. Doesn't talk much, but yeah. I have a terrible sense of humor. I don't know why the Telecaster and the Strat bolt-on necks have different shaped pockets. I don't know why he decided to do that, and it was a decision. Somebody said, "Well, why don't we just use this one? We've been doing it." No, do it this way. And I'm not sure what the reasoning was. If any of you know, it must be in one of the books. Let us know in the comments or the chat, please, because you know, hashtag always be learning. Okay, so I would say that the Strat is as close to a standard as we are going to get. And yeah, I don't see any reason to not make all of your instruments based on one shape / size neck pocket. We do with all of the ones that we build at Crimson Guitars. At least all of the ones that we build under our own brand, shall we say. So there we go. Ted Air says, "Hello Ben, I have a guitar with 2 glued in 2-point trem posts in the body. How do I remove and replace? Should I cut the whole block out and replace that? No. Fire. Burn it. Burn it to the ground and you'll end up with 2 pristine posts. No. You can try with a soldering iron to start with, but essentially you want to apply heat to both of the metal pieces. Trust me, unless you're applying enough heat to burn the body through standard convection, you are not going to damage the inserts in any way, shape or form. It takes a hell of a lot of concentrated heat over quite a long period of time to have any effect on a chrome finish. If it's an aluminium piece, the aluminium inside will melt first before you touch the chrome, really. So I would apply heat, and that will loosen the glue. And then it depends on how you want to go about it, and depends on what you've got. But essentially, there is a tool for this, and I've since changed my entire workshop around. I can't find half of my tools, but we sell at Crimson. Aha! There we go. We sell this item here, which has got a thread on the top and a doohickey that grabs onto stuff, and you put that on the body and then spin the wing nut, and it'll just pull it all up. And that sort of device is what I would use in order to get that up. Another option is to put a piece of wood to protect the guitar top, and then some sort of a levering action with a claw hammer or something like that. But it very much depends on what you've got, and that does sound a little bit janky to me. So please try the proper tool first if you have that option. Okay, we have our first super chat of the evening from Joe. Joe Smyjohn Jr. has come in and said, "I'm surprised you cut the hole in Nebula." I'm saying this in a disapproving tone of voice because I suspect that's where we're going. "I'm surprised you cut a hole in Nebula. I thought it was going to be a top-mounted pickup." It was. That was the plan. Remember, this is... Even a top-mounted pickup is going to affect the vibration of the top at that point, and it is also a point glued right up next to a neck. So I wanted a top-mounted pickup. We designed one that we know will sound great. It sounds great in the tests, etc. But it's massive in comparison to the mini humbucker that we've gone with. And frankly, it looked horrible. And sound is very important. And in the hierarchy of sound with this guitar, the electrified sound is of prime importance. This is going to be a gigging instrument. But looks are also almost equally as important. And the pickup that we made, while technically only a fraction bigger in real estate than a standard humbucker surround, it was literally 2 millimeters wider and the same height. For some reason, because it didn't have any of the normal holes and gaps and nonsense that you get, and the variation height, etc., that you get with a normal pickup, it just looked giant. So I cut a hole in it. But you shouldn't be surprised. I did, throughout the entire build, I did say, hey, I might have to cut a hole in this. Let me make sure that I put my braces on either side of where a humbucker would go, just in case I end up cutting through. And I mentioned it a couple of times throughout the build. So I don't think I completely blindsided you, but there we go. There we go indeed. Now, if you have a burning desire for me to see your question, then a super chat is the way to go. But yeah, let us do it. Patrick Mitchell, this is on, he's quoting episode 1 of Nebula. Patrick Mitchell says, episode 1, Ben, I don't want to string out this build very long, just a month or two. 10 months later, we may or may not be filming the last episode. Has it really been 10 months? I don't believe you. I refuse to believe you. It can't. 24 episode, 1 a week. Holy hell! It's and we stopped for a month or two as well. Wow. Okay. That is a problem. Creverai, I really need to get to the bottom of what's happening with your stain. I want to talk to some people at Crimson tomorrow about that. But yeah, a guitar takes as long as it takes, and Nebula has to be perfect. So there we go. There we go. Marsha Levine has sent $5 and said, Ben, I sent the first super chat. First comment, in fact, I shall cry now. Marsha, I apologise. Off the top of my thing here, hold on. Analytics, viewer activity. The stream goes through. How interesting. No, even on this, I think you sent the super chat before the stream itself started. So, here we go. I've been sent it. So, yes, if you send a super chat before the stream starts, when I started, it apparently clears the super chat slate. It's probably YouTube saying, hey, send more super chats, which is a little bit shady, but yeah, this is how. What? Anyway, Creverai. Yes, Creverai sent us the super chat here and says, at Crimson Guitars Extras, the letter to Ben I promised months ago. 10 months ago, you promised me a finished guitar. No, the letter I promised Ben months ago will be mailed tomorrow after I get off work. Included is a paperclip thumb drive with some pics. Be on the lookout for it soon. Thank you very much, Marsha. I really am looking forward to it. Marsha collects and is a fan of handwritten letters, and collects fine pens and dip pens and the like. And I use a dip pen in the Shrek build. Shrek's over there, actually. And Marsha promised me a letter, and I've been looking forward to it since then. So yes, but I am well aware that these things take time, and life is it just happens. It is what it is. Okay, so let me see. Whew. Okay, Guitar Addicts Workshop is in the house. Says, hey everybody. Dimitri says, I can't believe Ben hasn't finished Nebula again. I think we might have 2 more episodes in. I remembered in the deepest dark of my night last night that I'd promised a particularly incredible custom control knob that in the last 6 months just hasn't crossed my mind, which is mind-blowing. I think Space Station. But anyway, yeah, so there may be another couple of episodes, but, at this point, who cares? Now. All right. I like the silence. Do you like the silence? Neil Jelks, you horrible person. Is there a book on for the live crashing tonight? Put me down for £5. I think during the setup today, I think I've discovered what the potential weak point is, and it is essentially I've got one of those external things. Basically, my laptop only takes USB-C and 2 standard USBs. I don't have the ability to plumb directly into a Cat6 cable. So I've got one of those external things, which has an extension lead because it only comes with a tiny short one. I think, potentially, the external joint is where everything crashes and burns. So I'm trying desperately not to move anything. But, we'll get there. Anyway, people, feed me your questions. Tutankhamun says, Ben, I'm still waiting for news as to where to send the money for the guitar you're going to build for me. It sounds like potentially there's an email that's crossed in the ether. So please give us a call. I'm looking forward to that build. I was thinking about it this evening. Phone the workshop up and ask to talk to Tom. We have had some COVID in the building. we've had 3 cases of COVID so far over the last 3 or 4 months, actually. But because we are still wearing masks at the workshop and are being very careful, none of those cases actually got transmitted to anybody else. Every case that we've had has been spread apart in time and also caught from external places. So yeah, we are short-staffed. We have had some issues, specifically with customer service and all that jazz. It just seems like the world's going crazy. We also have a lot of people off having been pinged. So there we go. Heart of Oak. How's it going, Heart of Oak? Said, evening, Ben. I missed your last 2 live streams, but I wanted to update you on my issues with using a coping saw. I figured out I was using a Canadian coping saw and should be using a UK one. Picture below. The picture below is a giant 2-man tree saw. Yeah, that will do. That will do something for sure. Do you know what? Those kinds of saws are still manufactured. There is a company called Thomas Flynn. There we go. Thomas Flynn, under various different brands, still manufacture saws in the UK. And they still make saws like that. Joe Smart John Jr. is coming with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Joe. And says, when can we start filming for GGBO 22 again? So I am not entirely sure. It is supposed to start properly in January, as did this or February, as it did this year. But again, it's one of those things where I don't think if you started filming and said, hey, I started filming in February, I don't think anybody's going to actually know nor care unless you're totally taking the piss. And most of us aren't in this thing to take the piss, are we? So there we go. Tutankhamun has said, I have come across several large slabs of oak. I'm going to assume slabs of oak. The tree was cut down 2.5 years ago and the wood has been sat outside, raised off the ground under a tarpaulin. Do you think it would be okay for guitar bodies or would it need further drying? Basically, most wood is dried. Air-dried wood will dry at about 1 inch a year to a point where it's reached equilibrium with its environment. Now, outside in the UK, equilibrium is probably undercover, but with airflow, you're talking 14%. But there is no way for me to guess. You have to get your moisture meter and check. Life without a moisture meter is absolutely insane in a guitar or actually any woodworking environment, to be frank. So I'm incredibly lucky. I finally, after many years of not having the right tool, have got the Wagner Meters Orion. This is the 950, and it measures the moisture content without having to stick pins and stuff, and it is intensely accurate. But without something like this, how long is a piece of string? Now, 2.5 years, if the planks of oak are 2 inches, 2.5 inches thick, and are nicely stickered up with gaps in between, and there is airflow throughout it, then they should be relatively dry, but I would say you would need to bring them inside to dry them further before you use them. And also, to be frank, English oak for a guitar body will end up in some broken backs. So yes, you want to remove moisture, but also a hell of a lot of the wood itself. To be frank. Vulcan Essence sent €5. Hi Ben, jeweler saw and sharp inside corners. Do you slowly cut around the corner and snap blades, or rather make 2 distinct cuts that meet? Cheers, V. Okay. It depends on how sharp of a corner you want. I would suggest that for most, we're gonna. I'm assuming we're talking about inlay material, not pickup cavities. So a pickup cavity in a top or an F hole or something like that. You want rounded edges and corners and things if at all possible. It makes it feel. Weirdly enough, it makes it feel like it has more intent, shall we say. Now, I tend to very carefully cut the corner, and I'm going up and down and moving the piece generally and the saw at the same sort of time, and I just go for it. But it depends on how thick the material you're cutting is and how fine the saw blade and how new the saw blade is. Older blades tend to be a little bit worse off. Now, the safer option, yes, is to come in and make two separate cuts. But it's also not a question I can really answer without total context. So there we go. Phil Gerke, who has specifically told me how to pronounce his surname, which is great because it really is important to me, says, finally turning my attention to my mucked up fret markers. Thinking about copper pipe as circular inlays filled with ebony. Tips? Thoughts? I love doing that. I do it on a regular basis, and 100%. In fact, in many big box hardware slash hobby stores and places like that, arts and crafts stores, you can find aluminium and copper tubing at various sizes, and of course online as well. Now, there are several ways to do it. The easiest is to literally just drill a hole with a standard center point drill bit to the size you want and in the correct position, hence the center point. So use a brad awl, mark the hole and drill in. And that basically evacuates the whole hole. You put the tube in, glue it in, then carefully and slowly drill out the center with the correct sized standard machine twist drill. And that evacuates the glue and stuff, and you can then glue in a piece of ebony or ebony dust and mixed with glue. Now, that ebony dust and glue will always look different to the actual ebony that surrounds it. So that is an option, or a something for consideration. If you can make a dowel of ebony, then that would be better, and you can line the grain up nicely and stick that in after the fact and be done with it, and that works fine as well. The other option is to go all out insane, and this is something that we have done in the past. We now use CNC machines with a 0.5mm cutter, 0.6mm cutter to be precise, and that essentially cuts a circle, leaving the grain on the inside of the circle matching that on the outside, because it's the same wood. And then we just glue the tube into that slot. You can turn the tube itself, or a portion of the tube itself, into a standard hole saw of the perfect size. Now, what I would do is you essentially cut some teeth into the tube, put that in a pillar drill. You might need to put some dowel in the end that goes in the chuck to keep it from collapsing and therefore going all over the place when you turn the drill on. That could be dangerous. And then you essentially hole drill into the fretboard. Now, I understand this sounds scary and dodgy, and it is, because instead of a center point starting everything, you've got all of the teeth hitting at the same time, and it wants to go everywhere until you finally catch and go. What I would suggest you do is clamp down or glue down a V block made out of wood onto the fretboard, so that the center point, so that the V block is exactly where you want to cut, and then put your drill bit into that and then drill, and it should be located exactly where you want. Run as many test pieces as you want beforehand, and then go for it, and you should be okay. But Phil, there are many different options. The one I would suggest, the easiest option, is to have a copper outline and then a completely different look on the inside. So you've got ebony, you've got copper, and then you've got, I don't know, aluminium powder, or actually copper with an aluminium solid bar in the middle. Looks very cool, and that way you're not trying to match something that almost matches but doesn't. Is far more glaring than you saying, "Hey, I've decided to go ebony, copper, silver," or ebony, silver, then copper would actually also look really cool. So there we go. Those are my my thoughts and my tips. So yeah, I hope that helped. Oh, let me see. I'm getting text messages from various people sending me photographs of watches. It's crazy. Okay, so Scotsman via Discord. If you have not checked out the Crimson Discord, you need to. Okay, I'm assuming the stream is still healthy. It says it is, but please let me know in the comments. Scotsman via Discord says, all finished, fourth guitar, but first neck, which is the way to do it. I started with necks from the beginning because I thought I was hot shit. I was wrong. I'm still wrong. I need to reshape the neck heel, though. That's fine. How close do you think it would be safe to take it to the body without compromising strength or that? Cheers. P.S. It plays and sounds fantastic. Top is walnut, sourced locally. Back is sapele, neck is mahogany, and maple old floorboards. I would love to use old floorboards, actually almost exclusively. I think that would be so cool. And he has sent pictures. If you want to see these pictures, the guitar is fantastic looking. Like, proper. That's one of the nicest bits of book matching I've seen. Go to the Discord and check it out. And search for Scotsman on the Discord. But yeah, essentially... So Paul Reed Smith has... Who am I to argue with Paul Reed Smith? I'm a nobody. That's who I am. So he has extended the heel on the necks of some of his guitars, saying that improves tone massively. But then again, hundreds, if not thousands of guitars are built where there is literally no heel on the neck. So quite frankly, you do you, and it's fine. You are removing a little bit of material from the neck, which is going to affect the sustain of the guitar immeasurably. Oh, I've got some fun news. Oh my god! I met a physicist. I know a physicist who is retiring at some point in the next 6 months or so. And once he's got back to life, he is very interested in designing an experiment for me to prove or disprove categorically and to orders of magnitude how much of an effect tone and wood in an electric guitar is intertwined. It's going to be so fun. So yeah, that's going to be literally a long time away. It's going to be a good 6 months before retirement even happens, and then after that it will be, hey, I'm going to relax for a month or two, have a holiday, and then we'll start thinking. But going to be cool. Going to be very, very cool. Rab Knox is in the house. His last Sunday at home before heading back to Crimson HQ next week. I'm looking forward to it. Robert asks, hi Ben, hope all is great. Nebula is looking good. You must have the hands and nerves of a surgeon to cut that opening for the pickup. Honestly, cutting it by hand with the fret slot cleaning saw, etc., was a lot less stressful than getting a router on there. And I ended up with a really cool, off cut. So there we go. Whew. Let's see where we're at live stream. Tutum Carmen says, Ben, I tried my guitar in 3 amps. It sounds better than my Strat and Gibson Explorer in all 3. Well, there we go. So yeah, we've gotten pretty good at the pickup making. I've got one of the earliest sets that I'm not actually a huge fan of, and they've evolved over time, and we've changed various things. So it's very, very cool. Okay, via Discord, Griddles McShankly has sent me a message. What a name. Hello, Ben. The trem posts aren't lined up correctly with the new bridge I need. Glued in with epoxy araldite, and I need to replot correctly. If I can't get the threaded inserts out, what do I do? You can get the threaded inserts out. It's the exact same tool that we talked about earlier. One of these. Okay. Something like that works. That's technically actually supposed to be there for pulling control knobs off and the like. As well, that's the main task there when those nasty plastic control knobs stick on, and it's there to stop people gouging away with a flathead screwdriver. It's just destroying any respect I have for them whatsoever. Wait, no, I've done that. Many years ago. I have no respect for myself. Okay. Whew. Now, so the other option is to get a bolt or a screw of the same thread as the threaded inserts, i.e. something that will screw all the way in. Most threaded inserts have a hole out the bottom and are in a blind cavity in the guitar. So you push your bolt all the way through, turn. It hits the bottom of the cavity, and you keep on turning, and it'll slowly raise the threaded insert out without any damage or issues whatsoever. It just comes up. So I would do that. I would then fill that with a good solid dowel of wood, replot, redrill, boom, you're sorted. Okay, so Joe Smart John Jr. has come back in with another $5 super chat. Joe, thank you very much, and said you should use that Nebula offcut to make your next set of fret markers. And SC forwarded a question from Dr. Satan to you. Okay, well, we shall see. Wow, you can see in the future. It's amazing. You know what's on my phone. Dr. Satan says, Ben, question. Why would one choose to do the neck break angle instead of just recessing the Hans bridge or tunematic into the body? Is it just a matter of preference or personal taste? I will give you a third option. It's just easier, much easier, and looks better. So recessing, for example, a Hans bridge, they're made in Germany, aren't they? It's a complex shape. Okay, so very basically, yeah, inlaying that into a body would be a problem. It makes the routing itself is not easy. The finishing of the guitar is made that much more complicated, and if you go wrong, it's blatantly obvious that something's gone wrong. Whereas carving a 2 degree or a 2.5 degree back angle onto the back of a heel and routing that at an angle, that is basic woodwork. It's relatively simple and straightforward. If you are worrying about calculating that angle and all that jazz, do not worry about it. Draw your string line, measure the height of your bridge, draw the height of your bridge, and at that point you know exactly where the top needs to be at that point. The other edge of the top needs to be at basically the last fret of your fretboard. Plot where the last fret is, draw the two together, and you've got in front of you a scale plan showing you what the angle is. You don't even need to measure it. Just hold the piece of paper up and say, there we go, yep, there's a pin, cut there and you'll be all right. Really, really simple. When you try and calculate these things using maths and nonsense, that is scary. So, yeah. Now, questions. Just going through and seeing what I've already done. This is from Spike. Says, I want to replicate closely one of my first guitars, a 63 Les Paul Junior 3/4 size. I was told this week a pre-cut 25.5-inch fretboard minus the first 2 frets gives me the 22.75-inch scale. Have you ever tried this? Can you confirm it? Thanks. Template proving hard to find too. Making it. Yeah, making templates sucks, but sometimes it is the only way. Maths. 25.5-inch minus the first 2 frets gives you a 22.75-inch scale. I think that's wrong. Hold on. Scale ruler. Crimson branded for that quality. So, yeah, I mean, this is a maths thing. This is double-sided, 25.5. There we go. So, we are moving our 12th fret to the 14th fret by removing the 2 frets there. So, put your 0 on the 14th fret and measure up to the 2nd fret, which is where you're cutting it off. And that gives me 25.5-inch, 11 3/8, which means that because that then is effectively your 12th fret on the new scale length. So 11 3/8 is your 12th fret. Double that gives you 22 and wow, 3/4. Maths. You're right. You're there. 22 3/4. That is what we were after, wasn't it? Done. Yeah, absolutely. So standard 25.5-inch fretboard, lop it off at the 2nd fret, and that moves everything that way. If you want a 24 fret guitar, that's not going to work because you're also losing fret number 23 and 24 because they're becoming 21 and 22, of course. But yeah. Yes. So you can only have a 22 fret. Make sure you've bought a 24 fret standard board if you can. But go for it. Alrighty. Stephen says, I'm considering buying a cheap acoustic, sanding it down and refinishing. I want to use my GGBO space finish. This is Stephen from SC Guitars. Which is layers and layers of black 2.0, black 3.0, shielding paint, grain enhancing filler, and varnish. With tone wood and resonance actually being important and prevalent in the sound of an acoustic, would a thick textured finish like this smother the resonance or tone? Emphatically and categorically, yes. 100%. Don't do it. Sorry. So that being said, if you wanted to do it, I am fairly sure that with an airbrush, you could get thin layers of all of these things and the same sort of effect. So the reason why you ended up with a thick finish on your other guitar is because you were slobbing along with a paintbrush, essentially. But if you get a small compressor and a small airbrush, they sell these things for cake decorators. You can dilute the black 2.0, black 3.0, etc., and spray it on thin and then under another finish and be done. And you should end up with something much thinner and less inhibiting of tone. But also cheap acoustic. You said cheap acoustic. They're often not made out of tone wood. They're often plywoods and things anyway. So yeah, you should be okay. Tutankhamun has sent a picture of his purple and blue guitar that is almost finished. Again, that's in Discord. That's very cool. Looks like the headstock looks like it's giving you the finger. I like it. The truss rod cover looks like it's giving you the finger. It's great. Okie dokie. Creever Eyes commenting on my pronunciation of the Hans Bridge. He says Hannes Bridge, similar to the word harness, but without the R. Hannes. It's a guy's surname, isn't it? So it depends on him. But I've always said Hans, and I'm not going to stop. Unless I'm being... yeah, there we go. Rocket Punk says, hey Ben, for my Jazzmaster project, I'd like to make a pick guard out of copper, because why not? Because pain? That, and with the bronze hardware in green stain I got in my crimson box of cool beans yesterday. Thank you for your support. It's going to look stunning. Thing is, people told me to protect this copper sheet so I don't get oxidation or even verdigris, although it could look really cool. What would be the best option for a varnish? Nitrocellulose or polyurethane, or do you have another option? This is a difficult question, and actually one that I really struggle to find, and now I can't bring the answer to my mind. Sign writers use gold and copper leaf often, and they varnish over it with a water-based varnish a lot of the time, and that stops that. Now, my honest opinion is to go full-on oppositional defiance on their asses and say, do you know what, people? Bring on the verdigris. And in fact, what I would say is build yourself a fume chamber or a box with a lid. Yeah. Put in some ammonia. You can get it on the internet. Put some ammonia in there. Put some salt. Put some mustard on the metal. Mustard gets you a brownish, yellowy kind of a patination effect. Salt gives you blues, and if you go for fertilizer, there are certain nitrate, I think, based fertilizers that give you beautiful greens. Throw all of that together on a chunk of copper and an ammonia and salt-rich environment, and leave it for a little while, and you will get something that is visually amazing. A standard copper scratch plate just on its own very rapidly starts to look boring, even if you have lacquered it. And if you've polished it up enough to make it nice and shiny, putting lacquer on it is just problematic. I would rather get a verdigris kind of an effect, because that's what you're going for anyway, with the rest of the instrument. And then once all of that is done, and this is important, don't lick it. Apparently some of that patination is actually really bad for you. At that point, you might want to put a coat or two of water-based varnish over it. But please go to sign writers to see what they use in particular. I've seen some sprays. So maybe all of the above work, but go to a better qualified source for that particular information, please. Woohoo! We've got a super chat from Lucifer. Sent $5 Canadian. Thank you very much, dude. How long can you have a surface masked off before the tape leaves a residue? How long is a piece of string? No clue. No clue whatsoever. Some tapes, not all masking tapes are created equal. Period. So, yeah, as a rule of thumb, if you're going to leave it for a while without doing any work, I would unmask and just eat the wasted time. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Whew. Neil Jelk says the book match was a fluke, lol. I do not believe you. It is too perfect. I refuse to believe you. SC Guitar says oppositional defiance. I definitely want to do it now. Moo ha ha ha. Cheers, Ben. You can go off a person, Stephen, you know. This is about the massively thick finish on a cheap acoustic guitar. EZO Guitars, EZO Guitars. via Discord says, "Hey Ben, I'm having a lot of fun on my latest build. However, carving is proving to be rugged. I have a Shinto rasp. Cultist status confirmed." I like it. Thou shalt worship the Japanese saw rasp, for it is amazing. I literally, the first time I used one of these things, it literally changed my life. At the end of these live streams, I end up with all sorts of random stuff on my bench. Okay, where are we? Cultist status confirmed. I mean, I've always been tempted to start a religion. It's apparently a really good way to make a lot of money. Chisels and such, but I'm having some issues removing material in tight radiuses. Should I be looking to use a gouge or something else? Okay, so a gouge does work, but you want probably a round or a half round rasp of some description. Now, here we go. Another carving tool that has changed my life is the little half-round Iwasaki rasps. And these things are amazing. They've got laser-etched teeth, or laser-sharpened teeth. I don't know how they make them. They're incredible. And if you're carving with the grain and in the correct direction, etc., they are very rapid and very precise and very amazing. And they do them in various different sizes. This one's a little bit curved, but they're incredible. The other option, I think we have them in stock at Crimson, but if not, there are other, shock horror, there are other people who sell that sort of stuff. The other option is literally just a large round rasp, or potentially another one of my favorite tools for this sort of thing is a half round. So one side is flat and the other side is half round. A half round, around about 1 inch wide rasp. Now this is a hand cut rasp made by Taranti in Italy. This came through Vintage Tool Shop. It's my website, vintagetoolshop.com. Although I doubt there'll be any in there. If they come in, they go very rapidly. Here is a smaller, shorter version with a slightly different shape. This is a medium cut. That's also Taranti, so that probably came from the same place. And then, oh wow, there's another Taranti. Again, I probably had a bunch from a workshop. Anyway, there are various other options as well. Check out Workshop Heaven. They have a good supply of very, very nice rasps as well. So yeah, for the longest time I had a saw rasp and I had a half round medium cut half round rasp. There we go. I said the word half round many times. Whew. Lewis Wingrove says, question, does a Dremel make a good tool for polishing frets? It can do. I have done it that way in the past. Use Jeweller's Rouge and a dust mask, because Jeweller's Rouge in your lungs is not good news. I've done various videos showing that process as one of the options. There are many ways to skin this cat. I would say do not spend too long on each fret, even if you haven't got a particular fret to the final shine that you require. Once it starts heating up, go on and do a few more and then go back to it once it is cool, because you run the risk of completely delaminating all glue and everything in there and just popping the fret out, which is a bad thing. So yes, a Dremel or multi-tool of your choice, Proxon, etc., with a felt sort of bullet-shaped cone on it, and some Jeweller's Rouge polishing compound works very, very well. I would use a fretboard protector, a little bit of steel that we sell with a gap in the middle for the fret to, you guessed it, protect the frets. What are you guys doing? For some reason today, we are nearly an hour in, and I think this is only my second sip of water. Last week, by this point, I'd run out of water and I was starting to panic. Ivan Wizard, Carl, has sent €5 and said, Hi. Have Crimson got students from outside the UK main island yet? I.e. from the wee leprechaun island, I can't do the accent, please forgive me, to the immediate west of you? No. But we have a teacher teaching in the school who comes from there, who has been flitting backwards and forwards. I say flitting, I mean as much as a luthier can flit. So I don't think that there is currently an issue for people getting here from yeah, it's Northern Ireland, isn't it? In the UK. I am tired. Please forgive me. Okay, so yes, no, I don't think it's an issue. Drop us an email and you will talk to probably Ricky. So go through shop@crimsonguitars.com or office@crimsonguitars.com if you prefer, or even stream at crimsonguitars.com, and somehow we will get you in touch with Ricky, who will figure out the details of what's going on. A lot of people are saying the stream is going good and okay, so thank you very much. A little bit of buffering, but all still healthy. So there we go. Fantastic. Like the video people, that's coming from Culver de Jaeger. Not a name I recognise, actually. Robert R says, hey Ben, does Crimson sell a finer fret leveling file? The one I have seems really coarse. So you have got the standard fret leveling file, which over the years has become standard for everyone. It does feel a little bit coarse when you look at it in just, hey, I'm looking at this file, it's like, wow, those teeth are fairly far apart, etc. But in use, it's actually pretty damn awesome. We do not do finer ones. For two reasons. One, the fret leveling beam allows you to change the paper to whatever coarseness you want. But two, the issue with files, as you can see on my rasps and things here, is they pick up material in the teeth. And a fine file really struggles with clogging up on most fret wire. So most fret wire is made up of nickel silver, which is actually brass and nickel, and it's relatively soft depending on how much brass is in there, etc. And it does clog up files very much. And when we did do finer files, we had a lot of people really get poor results because it would clog. You couldn't get the clog out. It would that clog would then go over the other frets and gouge into the frets, and you'd have to start again. It's just not fun. So no. I would say use the fret leveling file is very, very, very good at its job. But for finer work and to get rid of the scratches from that, a leveling beam is your friend. Okay. Injing via Discord says, what is the best way to remove a glued on neck when I've used waterproof glue? Right now I'm thinking about cutting the neck off and routing out the neck pocket. It is a cheap kit. Okay. Okay. So waterproof doesn't mean heatproof. So yeah, with the standard removing a neck, you would sometimes, depending on who you are, try and use steam and take a fret out and drill a hole to the back of the neck pocket and put steam in and all that jazz. But no, all you need to do, especially if it's just a cheap kit, is to gently warm up that area. You can use an iron on the top of the frets. You might need to reseat some of these frets afterwards, but it is what it is. An iron from behind the neck, even if you're talking about something like a Strat or a Teddy where it's relatively close, it will warm the wood up. A hot air gun, gently warming everything up, and then just some light pressure. And you don't need steam. It will go. You'll get there. It would be a shame to have to cut the whole neck off and then replace it. It's just a waste of material and time and effort, even if it is just a cheap guitar. So Max says, mentioning Workshop Heaven, I think I'm at the point to just order the Magnum Scary Sharpening Set, which is, seriously, let him know in the comments that you came via Crimson. Just for shits and giggles. Matthew there is fantastic. And yeah, the Scary Sharp system, I'm actually a fan of it, which really surprises me. And then Max says, do some Leatherman tricks with a smiley face. My old Leatherman, it was loose enough that I could just do this and it would open. But that happened because I swam in the sea with it on and it seized up. So I had to loosen all the things and oil it and all that jazz. But I've now got, thanks to Leatherman, thanks to this podcast, I'm sponsored by Leatherman. It's freaking incredible. I've got the Leatherman Charged Titanium, and I'm such a happy puppy. But it's held together with security screws that I don't have the tool for. So I need to get that tool so I can loosen it just a little bit so I can do my tricks. But anyway, I love this tool. Brandy B has come in with a super chat. Thank you very much, Brandy. It said, if you are building an acoustic guitar, what tools can you not live without? Okay, so any tool, period. Any tool, any type of guitar whatsoever. That's me trying to see if I've got another question there to move on to, so there's no awkward silence here. Any guitar requires a set of tools to do the leveling, the crowning, the polishing. Obviously, we sell the essential fret leveling and dressing toolkit at Crimson, and there's various other bits and pieces. Assuming that you already have those, and you're not talking about specific tools, I would say to build an acoustic from scratch, you 100% need various chisels, carving. My gosh. The bracing. I forgot the word for bracing. We shouldn't do this time of night. Carving the bracing requires either a good quality flat chisel or maybe even a flat chisel where you've ground the flat bit off so it actually goes a bit like that and you don't bark your knuckles on the wood. So you need a flat chisel to do that at the very least. I would suggest that, people will argue, I will suggest that you can't build an acoustic guitar properly without a good quality hand plane or two. Excuse me, the puppies are barking up there now. Technically, you can joint a guitar top and back by using a leveling beam carefully. Fine. I wanted to come up with something. Technically, you can do X, Y, or Z, but it's still a stupid idea. Please, in the live chat, let me know what you would fill in those spaces. Technically, you can, but okay. So yes, a hand plane or two for jointing and tidying up. For example, when you have made your the kerfing around the edge and everything's glued, a small hand plane to plane that down to the level of the top is essential. It really is. Radiusing dishes with sandpaper on. This isn't something that we sell at Crimson yet, although we could, we just don't. A radius dish to sand the correct radius into the top and the back, a la Nebula, I did that in this build, is required, is necessary. Router, truss rod, same thing as an electric guitar. Good quality hand drill, of course. Powered or not, I don't care, but you've still got to drill holes for the tuners and all of that jazz. And clamps. Now, a good set of clamps is absolutely essential. Now, these are standard spool clamps. We made them at Crimson. We don't sell them, but we made these. It's just a piece of threaded bar with some wood with some nice cork on it. A bunch of them, is required for guitar building. I'm sure there are things that I've missed. Please let us know in the comments if you have. Oh yes, Joe says you need a side bending machine of some sort. So even if it is just a bending iron, and it doesn't have to be a commercially available, really damned expensive machine. Excuse me, I'm trying not to sneeze at this point. Okay. Bending irons used to be as simple as a tube of steel clamped to a metal workbench with a Bunsen burner or some sort of a gas torch focused on it at the end, so the other end would be warm enough to bend wood. You would need a sander of some sort to sand the sides down, and don't think that 2mm is too thin for the sides. You can go even thinner sometimes. Don't leave it too thick, because that's really where it starts causing some trouble. There are other things, I'm sure. Small clamps to hold the kerfing in place, or clothes pegs. Just make sure you've got strong clothes pegs and you'll be okay. Whew. Robert Tucker says, is there a tool that you wish you had but have not been able to find / get? ? For a long time it was a nice cranked chisel. I used this one to carve the braces on Nebula, for example. These are intensely rare. In the lifetime of the tool shop, which I founded in late 2017, we've literally just had two. We have listed for sale over 40,000 tools. Two of them were those. Other than that, I am intensely lucky. I mean, there are tools that I want. Phil Gerke, I think that's how you pronounce his name. It says, I use the same Leatherman. It's a fantastic tool. I'm in love with it. I would like a larger set of tools for checkering, for example, in different sizes, in different widths. So gunstop checkering, and it's just something that I literally just need to find the project and decide. Okay, I know where to go to buy those, I think, and I'll buy those. I've got most things that I could do with here. I would love to learn how to braze properly for use with tool making and the like. And I have a welding machine, but I've never used it because I don't know how to. And then COVID happened. I would love to learn how to do welding properly. I feel like as a craftsman I should. Here we go. I would very, very much like a machine. I'm not sure what they're called. Adam Savage has one, I think, as does one of the other machining YouTubers. And essentially, it's a tool where you've got a file that sits in the tool and the file goes up and down. A die filer, potentially. I would love a die filer. I would find so many uses for that. But with the vintage tool shop, I find all sorts of really cool things fairly regularly. And, well, it's my shop, so I get first dibs. Maybe that's why it doesn't make any money. Joe Smyjohn Jr. has come in with another $5 super chat. Thanks very much, Joe. And it says, good point on the sander. I'm building a drum sander and side bending machine similar to the LMI for my acoustic build that I'm working on. The full side bending machine is not actually that difficult to build. I have never done it, but it's when you get over the intimidation and you really look at it, it's relatively straightforward and should be something that most people can build. I should just get off my ass and do it, shouldn't I? But yes. Some sort of a sander thicknesser for building acoustics is very, 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 very much recommended. If you're only building one, use hand planes. If you want to build more than one, find a sander thicknesser or make a sander thicknesser. Susie Gardner on her channel, I don't think she's doing much at the moment, but she built one. It's a cool video. Okay, everybody's talking about the weather. Apparently, summer is over. Garage Master Guitar says fret slot cleaning saw. I think they're extinct. So those saws are some of the we source them from Hosco, and okay. So Crimson, where we can make a better tool than anybody else does at a price that you guys are willing to pay, we'll make them ourselves, of course. But where you can find something that is as good as it can be, and they sell at retail for 10, 20 quid. We'll go that route. So those fret slot cleaning saws are by Hosco, and Hosco are out of stock. That means the rest of the world is out of stock, and it's not likely to be in stock for a good 6 months or so, according to my information. So yeah, there we go. Okie dokie. Die filer. This old Tony. That's the one. This old Tony. That man. Oh my god, he's incredible. So, and I think that Adam Savage has a sort of a hobbyist one or something like that, I seem to recall. So there we go. Uriel Sage says, I want one of those Felder 24-inch planar jointers you have, Ben. Oof, that's a nice piece of kit. I think we've only got the 18-inch one, to be honest. But I must tell you, when I got that was when I thought I'd finally made it. Because, what a machine. Now, yeah, guys, I think the questions are running low. Therefore, I think we should probably start calling it a night. Garage Master Guitar says, can you use hot water for bending binding? The plastic type. My heat gun just softens it too fast. Yes. I've never tried it, but I have seen somebody do that before, and yeah, absolutely. Slowly heat it up. It is using a hot air gun on plastic of that thinness. It's an exercise in how far can you push it before you just destroy everything. So yeah, there we go. Now, hold on, I saw my name. Ben something. Ben builds a side bender video series from Craig Manson. Yeah. I'm starting to question myself. If I've really taken... Well, I've taken 24 episodes so far to build Nebula, and... Yeah, okay. That's a bit of a problem. Redhead17 is asking me if I've seen some videos and people are replying on my behalf. I can't remember off the top of my head who it was, but I have checked them out, and yes, they are incredible. Lisa says she was looking for a number 4 plane, which is better with or without ridges on the bottom. So I would say that the corrugations on the sole of a hand plane are a crock of shit. It's supposed to remove friction, but what it actually does is just get in the way, especially if you're working on finer stuff. So I've got this lovely little 603 bedrock plane from Stanley. To be honest, this is actually going to be going... don't jump the gun, Ben. I'm setting up a new workshop at Crimson headquarters, so actually it might end up there, but it's not going to be in daily rotation because it is just annoying. I've got a standard number 3. I thought I had a standard number 3 over there. If I don't, I will find one soon. Seem to be missing a plane amongst the several hundred I have in here. Okay. Depends on how big your hands are as well. I would seriously consider looking at a number 3 if you can. For me, they feel more comfortable than a number 4, and they have the same drop. They're a little bit smaller. Yeah, so for what it's worth. Whew. Joe Smarjohn Jr. says, you don't need to do the Sidebender series. I will be including that with my GGBO 22 build videos. But that's your channel, not my channel. No, I am not likely to do that just yet. But one day, I almost certainly will. Then again, I'm going to do it a completely different way to you, almost guaranteed. There are so many different ways, and to be frank, even if every single person who builds a guitar films that process, there will still be things, tips and tricks and things that I've not thought about and you've not thought about that will come up out in the videos. So yeah, never mind. Oh, here we go. Driftwood guitars. That was it. Redhead17 says, have you had a look at Driftwood guitars? I mentioned about a month ago, their inlays on the neck, sometimes flowing into the body, look amazing. Yes, I did. They are seriously cool. And this is the thing. So I alluded to the fact that I was going to be building a new workshop at Crimson headquarters fairly soon. And very basically, I've come to the conclusion that, well, there is always going to be a place for me spending 6 months or more building a guitar on Saturdays on the YouTubes. But I also want to do more builds, quicker builds. And the way to do that is to have a traditional artist's studio kind of a setup, i.e. you've got the fantastically good looking, incredibly intelligent and talented master craftsman at the head of the studio, or me, and a couple of luthiers working with me to create stuff. And that is the plan. So I'm going to be working more back at Crimson now that most of my staff have been vaccinated, and I haven't, and we're getting back to usual. But we'll be filming the process, and there will be more videos where it's, hey, come along a journey for 45 minutes with us, and you'll watch a guitar from conception to completion. And you'll see that 2-3 times a month, I hope. And there'll be a lot of interesting things going on. So yeah, including building a new workshop, which should be fun. Okay, if you have any burning questions, please let me know. You are Rage Quit says, all hail Shinto Saw. Okay, Wandering Furbolg says, yesterday I received some supplies from you guys and it was amazingly well packed and conditioned. Excited to finally finish my base, finish with your black stunning stain and finishing oil. Thanks. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And I'm super glad because those were probably packed by somebody who had only been doing it for a couple of days because everybody else was either on holiday or had been pinged due to COVID. And it was, yeah, we've been short-staffed. If you are waiting for an order, we've had some problems with staffing recently, and it's really, really, really a problem. Okay, we've got a cat in the comments. Steak and eggs. Would you rather build each guitar perfectly or always build a perfect guitar? If I could build the perfect guitar without any effort whatsoever, I don't think I'd build guitars anymore, actually. I think the fun for me is the fact that I haven't yet built the perfect guitar. There's not a single instrument I've ever made that I am 100% happy with. And the challenge for me, and the reason I keep on doing this, is I want to one day. Good question. Kiwi Quarters has come in with a $5 super chat and said, hey Ben, out of all the guitars you've built on the channel, what is the most requested model for purchase? Okay, that's a good... At the moment, the guitar that the BBC destroyed and I repaired, a bunch of people asked to buy that and it's not for sale, which is a real bummer because we could do with the money right now. We have sold coming up on 10 of the copper rodded guitars. And I did that in a video. It wasn't even a full build series. It was just 2 or 3 videos because, hey, this is an interesting idea. We've sold about 10 of those, and that was a long time ago. The bog oak with a resin river and the gold leaf, that guitar we've had a number of orders for, probably 4 or 5 of them, I would say. And that was a more recent build, but it's a fairly well-requested instrument. But the thing is, most of the builds I do, I say, hey, this is a one-off, this is just a thing. Nebula 2 that I'm building right now is Nebula 2 because within 12 hours of that, the last video on the last one, 2 people tried to buy it. And the guy who came first got it. And this is the result of the second one. So yeah. Max says, here in Germany, we are not allowed to have multi-tools with a blade, which can be accessed with only one hand. Because of that, my choice is fairly limited. So, yeah. I mean, I do understand the reasoning, and yeah, it is one of those things. But the fact that I don't have to open this model Leatherman all the way out to then pull out my blade to then close it to use the blade is the reason, and pretty much the only reason, that I wanted to change tools in the first place. I had the Super Tool 300, which is it's up at the house. Fantastic thing, just not quite, as efficient. And it's all about efficiency. Okay, give me questions. Rob Tootle says, what type of mustard? English or Dijon? I'm pretty sure they would give similar but slightly different results, so experiment. This is to patinate copper with. Mustard and ammonia, that's from Jeff's Guitars. Lisa says nail varnish. So you can use nail varnish to select sections of the copper that you don't want to do. Okay, I'm just looking for questions. I can't see anything off the top of my head here, and we're running low. Creever says spray gun for cake decorators? Question mark. What the WTF? Question mark. Yeah, a tiny little thing, and they spray food coloring to make a cake look like whatever they want to make it look like, and they never really do. Gerber multiplier, and that's Max's current multi-tool of choice. I mean, it's not a Leatherman, but it's fine. If you're restricted by law, then I suppose that's all it is. Okay, guys and girls and people of indeterminate species, I really appreciate your support. I'm going to go right down to the bottom and see if my repeated request for questions has resulted in any more questions. Julia Child. I saw an old video where you show how to set up a Japanese hand plane. But I've never seen you use one in any significant capacity, so I'm just curious how you feel about them. I do love them. I have since sold that plane. I have a tiny Japanese hand plane somewhere around. That's not Japanese. I've got a little pull one somewhere. That plane was fantastic. I worked really hard to get it super, super sharp. But the blade was, in that particular case, so brittle that even hitting something at the wrong angle resulted in a chip and a lot of sharpening. And the third time that happened, I put it on a shelf and I said, goodbye. And there we are. Oh, excuse me. And there we are. So I love the feel. I love the use. I love the how in touch with the plane you are. Because you've essentially set it up and fettled it yourself, and all of that jazz. But the practicality of that particular one, just, do you know what? I'm here not to play around with tools. I am here to make something, and I love using the tools. But a 100-year-old Stanley with the fine adjustment and maybe a good quality modern blade is so good at the job that I don't need to waste time tipping and tapping and knocking and adjusting and resharpening ad infinitum. So it's difficult. It's difficult. Bulgonian Evolution says, Ben, have you attempted or started using an airbrush yet? I've still got a compressor back at the tool shop in a box somewhere. I've played it in the last bit, but a long time ago. Rabnox says, Ben, where is the new workshop getting set up? Basically, the production area is being emptied and we're rebuilding it. So that's in the center at the heart of Crimson, because we don't have too much space. Uriel Sage says, Ben, Super Aslex, you really need to try it. I have heard that several times. I think I asked somebody to buy me some actually at the office. Have you ever tried engraving Mother of Pearl? That's from Robert Slaney. Yep, fairly straightforward. Standard graver, and then some black wax in there too. It's like sketching, basically, just with steel. If you haven't yet watched Ford Hallam, Google Ford Hallam on YouTube. Go over, subscribe, tell him I sent you. I don't think he knows I exist, but I'm a fan of his. So yeah, he does some amazing, like literally mind-blowing engravings. Just okay. Robert Tucker, Ben, neck pockets. I've picked up a few bodies of differing kinds. Now I'm finding out just how different neck pockets are. Is there a resource where it puts many of the common ones' specs? Honestly, they change even within manufacturers. You just have to see what you've got and adjust accordingly. I'm sorry. We do a template. I think we do it for sale, where you've got a standard Strat type neck pocket, and then you've got varying size versions going up and down up the template for exactly this issue. Jeroen Verhoeven says, do you like a dial and handless watch like the Urwerk UR220 series? Question mark. And then he goes on to say, not whether you can afford one. Yes, emphatically, Urwerk makes some incredible watches, and yes, they are like, what, hundreds of thousands. So, yeah. I've forgotten the term now for what it's called. Flying... anyway, yes, I do. They're very cool. There is a watch by a company whose name I've now forgotten that's rubber wheels, rubber bands essentially going around and around and around with numbers on and stuff like that. There's just so much in watchmaking that is interesting. Anyway. Redhead17 says, can't find a plane in a stack full of planes? Lol. You know, I think it's because I read the workshop. I've got a drawer full of planes that I want to restore, and the number 3 will be in there. Thank you for letting me know, because I've now figured it out. Electric Lady Guitars, Devon UK says, question, can I repeat my Sycamore for acoustic build? Question. Good enough for under bridge? Yes, absolutely. You can repeat your question. I choose not to answer it. I'm sorry, for some reason I've become an arsehole later in the evening it gets. Yes, Sycamore is perfect for an acoustic under the bridge plate. Traditionally, you use a chunk of rosewood, I think. Here we go. The Grail. Campiano Natelson. Yeah, chunk of rosewood. For a steel string at least. But yeah, a good quality bit of maple would be absolutely fine. I think that's what I used on Nebula, actually. Uriel Sage says, Ben, when is the last time you used your Triton router? It's been a while, and after I waited a year to get one. Arg. On camera, actually, it has been a while. Since Shred, maybe? Shred's little brother? No. I didn't even use a router on that. That was a kit. The horror. It's been a while, but there will be more. Trust me. Okay. Hold on. Questions. Lisa says, at least 3 from me not answered. Well, you need to put them at the bottom quickly. I'll see. Does anyone use a scroll saw, and what for? I have a fantastic scroll saw in the corner. I think I'm going to actually sell it. I need to declutter everything. And yeah, it's a Hegner scroll saw. It's amazing. I could use it for cutting metal, but most metal work that I would want to cut, I would do by hand. So there we go. Arta Petrek says, Ben, how do you stain a top, maple, for example, to make the faux binding? Use a piece of properly folded paper, so you don't want just a clump. Put the stain on it, but only a little bit of stain. You don't want it dripping wet. And then from the center of the guitar, move out towards the edge and go off and fly off the edge like an airplane going off the edge of an aircraft carrier. And if you don't have very much stain on the rag or the bit of tissue, it won't go where you want the binding to be clear. If you pull back, it tends to bunch up and then stain will drip down the edge, and that's where the issue becomes an issue. People talking about the Triton TSPS T450 oscillating spindle and belt sander, which is one of my favourite tools. I shit you not, it's amazing. Okay, we're back into talking about the weather now, so there we go. I should see Stefano Pedretti engraving. I will check that out. Okay, Leprechaun made it in. Better late than never. How's it going, Leprechaun? Shim versus Bridge Veneer is running 1-1 currently. I think I'd go for Bridge Veneer, personally. Craig Manson says, would you rather get a new hand plane or a new watch? I would rather get a new watch, but I fear divorce. Realistically speaking, I have more than I require of either of these things. In fact, I'm going to be selling a bunch of my watches. It's a collection I've built up over years, but it's not required. They're just not required. So, yeah, I mean, I will... And I've got... They really are. I've got hundreds of planes, and I can... Hell, I own the vintage tool shop. I have thousands of planes. I have hundreds of planes in this workshop, and I don't use more than 3 or 4 of them on a regular basis. A lot of it is a love of the tool. A lot of it is the fact that, you know, they are somewhat of an investment, and I just love old tools. There we go. Good question, though. Robert R. says, have you considered building a travel type guitar? Yes, I have, and I will. Kiwi Quarters says, any future plans for guitar, viola, or banjo lute projects? Not banjo lute, no. Guitar, viola, yes. I love the odd instruments. I do love the odd instruments as well, so yeah, that will be fun. Okay. Dimitri says, hi Ben, what is the best, safest way to remove a fretboard? Cheers. I would say remove the frets, chisel out the mother of pearl or harder inlays, and then make sure the truss rod is adjusted so everything's nice and flat. Plane the excess fretboard off until you've got about 1 millimeter or so left, and then leave it. Glue on top of that, say 0.5 millimeter. It's when you get to the point of removing that final little bit that you start having issues. If you have to get rid of that, I would at that point use an iron, gently heat everything up, and it should just peel off, clean everything away, and then go back. I would do that rather than try and remove the entire fretboard in one shot, because you never know what's happening on the neck underneath. You might be pulling the grain. If you're using a palette knife or something like that, that could be going into the grain and actually removing bits of neck. So, yeah. There we go. Ben, I finally glued the maple top onto the Squire Strat I was working on. I used Typebond 2. Should I be worried about it pulling apart where I bent top for contour? No, as long as it was clamped up and glued and left for enough time, you should be fine. Typebond, all of the Typebonds are fantastic. Rabnox says, Ben, have you seen the video about only sharpening the plain blade to just 240 grit? I have not, and that's not sharp. Whether or not you were, or whoever did the video is 100% in the wrong. Whether you were able to cut a piece of pine or spruce or something like that with a plane sharpened up to that level, essentially what you have got is a saw in a plane. And yeah, it'll do the thing, but it will not do the thing properly or easily. But you know, I mean, you don't have to wear a helmet when you ride a motorbike, do you? But it's kind of required if you're not an idiot. Yeah. Let me think of a different simile, because that was a little bit harsh. Well, look at me. I build guitars by hand because I like building guitars by hand. There's a much quicker, easier way of doing it, and that is to have all of the routing done on a CNC machine. Either are valid options. One is a lot harder than the other, at least in the initial stages. Um, you can choose to only sharpen a plain blade to 240 grit. It will take a hell of a lot of effort to use that plane for anything, and the final result will never be good enough. Not for what we do. Whew. Creever says, have you been tempted to sharpen those damn chisels yet? Yes. That might even be what I do tomorrow. Lisa says, what about your roller, Ben? The one you use on the tape and superglue trick. That? I'm not sure what the question is in response to. Reddit17 says, are you charging by the hour for Nebula? No, I have at this point have charged nowhere near enough for her. David Spears says, hey Ben, my youngest child has gone to university, so Sunday chat is in the cards. Woohoo! Can you explain the difference between Isotunes Link and your new ones? Okay, so the new ones, which I'm not currently wearing, but these are a version. Don't ask me all of the different names and things. These are the Isotunes Pro Aware. The other ones that I've got are the Isotunes Link Aware, potentially. The difference is these ones have microphones that feed in what's going on around you. And here, personally, makes no difference to me in this workshop. Working at Crimson Guitars, if I've got people coming up behind me, when I've got music going on, trying to get my attention and I'm using a router, I need to know when they say, hey Ben. And with these, it feeds that back in while simultaneously cutting the loudest noises out. And you've got a volume, you've got volume for what you're listening to, and you've got volume for what the microphones are feeding in. So you can set it to 0. For example, if you're using a bandsaw at home, you can set it to 0 and it just works like a normal pair of ear defenders, Bluetooth ear defenders. A normal good quality set. But with the Aware set on, if somebody comes and talks to you, you will actually hear them, and you can hear what's going on around you over or with your music, etc., while still protecting you from the loudest noises, which are filtered out. It's incredibly clever, very cool. It's not necessary for everybody, but it is useful in a work environment. It took a little bit of getting used to because that setting, the Aware part of it, but once you figured out what exactly it's actually doing and the uses of it, it's really cool. Robert R says, on the bog oak resin guitar, how heavy is it? It is heavy. Let's just say that. Bog oak is heavy. Resin is heavy. It's a heavy guitar. Lisa says, who do we get in touch with about the website and get an answer guaranteed? Please, stream@crimsonguitars.com will go through to Stephen, and he will then chase up whatever question you need answered. So stream@crimsonguitars.com. We really have been... So one of the people who replies to a bunch of emails and stroke or specifies what needs to be said to people was Tom Webster, who was off with COVID for 2 weeks. And also in the last month, Sam, who is Director of Operations, he had a holiday with his family. And on top of that, just everything has been bad. It really is a nightmare. But talk to Stephen at stream@Crimson Guitars, and we'll get in touch with... Well, we will get back to you. Okay. Kane Harkin says, Nebula's looking stunning and a great idea to put it into production. Any ideas of rough prices for one? I have no clue. It depends on how well I can teach people to make it and / or the method that we choose to use. This one is built entirely like an acoustic. I think that we would have to do a production version with the back machined out of a solid lump of wood, sort of like the original one. But I don't know. There's many different things to do, so yeah, I'm not sure. Robert R says, I have seen a bunch of videos and YouTubers using chisels that seem like they are dull and take a lot of hammering to get them to cut. If they would take the time to sharpen them, it would take less time. Exactly. And be a lot safer. Trying to force a tool into wood when the tool isn't set up for it makes the tool slip and slide and jump and bounce, and that's how you end up with the chisel through your hand. Trust me, I've seen it happen. Kane Harkin says, evening Ben, sorry for being late. I forgive you. I just got up after a mixed day, got hold of a record power bandsaw today from a chap who lives next to a chap called Roger Bucknell, who's a guitar maker in Cumbria. Ha! I know of him. There are a few of us about. Lisa says, did you buy that flat/house? I have not yet, no. Nothing's actually come up, but I'm selling some watches to get to the deposit together, or part of the deposit together at least, so that if something comes up, then yeah, I will do. It's one of my plans that is actively something I want to do. Toby Schofield says, my dad has an Epi Sheraton from the 90s that has flat frets. He says they came that way, but that the guitar plays much better than any other guitar I've played. Is this a thing? A well set up guitar, even if it has flat frets, feels very nice. And I think you're talking about very, very, very low frets, like the sort of Gibson 70s fretless wonders kind of thing. And yeah, they do feel amazing. But there is an issue with the intonation on those instruments, because the intonation point on a much flatter fret is, well, nobody's really sure, and thus those guitars are harder to intonate, basically. But yeah, they do feel great. I'll give you that. I would say miniature tiny low frets would be better, because you've got an intonation point and a very comfortable thing to play. Okay. I really am going to call this an evening now. Okay, Lisa says 1, roller, 2, website. So yes, I've answered the website, and the roller, I wasn't sure what the question actually was, so I apologize for that. But ask it in the email as well, and we'll go from there. Okay. 99 Ben, this is from Lisa. Regards to your missus, thank her for us. She'll be asleep already. We apparently work on a shift pattern, even, yeah, I don't know. Life is insane. Garage Master Guitar says, sharpened my 3 chisels from the vintage tool shop today. Thank you for your support. They're great now. I've got a bald patch on my arm, though. Yes. David Spears says, I'm listening to the live chat with my Isotunes link while running my planer and hear you perfectly. That there is all you need to know about Isotunes. Some people give it to me in the neck for even considering taking sponsorship from anybody. I only work with companies that I am a genuine fan of, and that genuinely give people, a fantastic, useful, valid product, and Isotunes is one of them. Okay, anyway, I'm done. I'm finished. I'm done. 1 hour 44 minutes in. Creever says, I wonder that he's still going. Normally he would be tired around this time. I had a large Indian takeaway about an hour before I came on, and apparently gives me lots of energy. So there we go. Ben Greenacre asks, do you sell timber for bodies and necks? No, not really. If you are a student, yes. I want to get into selling timber, but we have an issue with space. It turns out 10,000 square feet or so is not enough. But anyway, we're all done. Thank you very much for your support, guys and girls. And yeah. Nope. Fine. Final question is basically about tone wood because, hey, we like that. Uriel Sage says, hi Ben, give me your opinion. I recently finished 2 Swamp Ash maple neck guitars. One was much lighter and the lighter one was much louder acoustically and had more sustain. Legit or hearing things? Legit. The question is how much of that gets transferred through the amp and into your recording software and all of that. That's kind of where the whole tone wood situation comes to a head, really. Can you hear the difference between those 2 guitars electronically in the end of the day? And there is definitely an effect on sustain, for sure. But yeah, it's a second order effect. It's not the primary driver of tone in a guitar, period. In an electric guitar, it just is not. It's the pickups and the setup and all of that jazz. The people that say that tone wood is 100% of everything are narrow-minded and somewhat foolish, in my opinion. I think that it is a 10, 20%, maybe 25% of the whole characteristic of the final instrument. But that, for example, hearing a difference of an amplified guitar, the fretboard or a 6mm cap, you're not going to hear that difference. But yeah, two bodies that are night and day. You know, one is 2 kilograms lighter than another one, even if it's the same species of wood, you'll hear a difference. And yeah, there we go. We're done. I really appreciate your support, everybody. And yeah, have a good evening. Have a good weekend. Have a fantastic week, because actually the evening is over, the weekend is over, and it's Monday tomorrow. It's all fine. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.